Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. This is your host, Young Brando, live from Los Angeles. We were supposed to be collaborating tonight, but not sure where Watching Watches, Watch Reporter, Colonel, um, whatever other names he has actually is. So I'm just going to do my own show, which is what I do and what I'm best at, anyways. And if he drops by later, that's just fine. Let me, in the meantime, drop the link to see if someone else would like to join the conversation. Hey, Reaper. Nice to see you, man. Thanks for being here. All right, we have everything ready to go. So, on Tuesday, because I take the Wednesdays off, we were looking at the In Eichen auctioneers um, top Rolex auctions, which should be otherwise a safe bet. And they have gone with all the usual suspects. None of the, nothing that needs really a secondary inspection, so to speak. Nothing that needs any particular kind of care or scrutiny. Just mostly stuff that is in current production or belongs to the new vintage category, largely in very good condition as far as one could discern from the pictures. But while we were looking through it, through the 50 lots that have been listed on Tuesday, we found out that 39 of them actually did not sell, which is really, really devastating. I mean, I think if that doesn't tell you something about the state of the market, I don't know what does. Um, a disrupting, primarily online auction house in Eichen sets up in February, which is neither here nor there. An entire auction that is dedicated to watches that should otherwise be surefire sellers, that should otherwise be easy to move. But since they set most of their reserves above the sticker price, above the current retail pricing, they have ended up not selling much of anything at all. And I think that really shows you that most customers of Rolex, most collectors are done now with this whole idea of paying above retail for just about anything and everything that is considered to be desirable in any way whatsoever. We, I think we stopped right at lot 17, which was one of the watches that had actually sold. Uh, and unsurprisingly, this was a piece that is obviously no longer in the catalog, um, a Pepsi, so to speak, but from a bygone era before the ceramic bezel insert or before the Cerachrome bezel inserts. This was 16710 D series. So in fact, it is going all the way back to 2005. no holes case with the caliber 3185. Looks quite mint, if not necessarily unpolished. With its original set of papers, if nothing else. And this was actually one of the pieces that sold actually at a fixed price of 17,100, which is again one of the more quote unquote disruptive or relatively unique things that In Eichen does as an auction house. Oftentimes they would have a relatively attractive starting bid. More often, and this is more frequently the case, they have a reserve price that's, you might even say, significantly above that, and then all the way up they have a fixed price which you can use to as a buy it now option at any point in the auction. And this is what this person did. Again, one of the things that In Eichen does as a disruptor today in the auction circuits in that landscape is that they don't charge buyers premiums. At least this was the case until very recently, unless they changed that more recently. I don't know. I don't see any warnings or notices here, so I'm going to assume that they are in fact going by their established practice. And that can be likened, of course, to other platforms that are similar to this particular method of In Eichen. Loop This, for example, takes usually separate watches on consignment and has online exclusive auctions for them on their own platform, and they have a relatively small, relatively modest buyer's premium set at a fixed 10%, which makes the process very attractive for most buyers who are interested in their selections. And as far as I heard and as far as I could discern, it's a pretty straightforward process for the seller as well. And in a way that helps you kind of get a happy medium, if it's a rare enough watch, between what you can get on your own through these sorts of tertiary platforms and what you might be able to get if you are really lucky through an auction. But of course, chances are you will only get paid, a year after you consign the piece. I mean, it takes pretty long, right? Obviously, things have happened and worked out faster in certain contexts, but that's usually how long it might take, right? It can take anywhere from 3 months to an entire year, and that's only if your watch gets actually sold and if the buyer ends up paying for it. So that's the difficulty with some of these esteemed auction houses, which might help you rake in the best rate in the current market, but they take a lot of time. Whiskey Reaper is drinking, earlier he was drinking Crown Royal. Crown Royal is like a whiskey blend, no? It's like a Canadian brand. It's a new release in a cocktail, never alone. Van Lux says, I've never heard of it. I'll look for it. I only add ice if it's not an expensive whiskey. If it's expensive, I add nothing. Yeah, right. There's, there are a few different ideas about that. I try not to mess with people's taste and habits. After all, alcoholic drinks can, um, can inspire, no pun intended, a lot of emotions in people. So if people use ice or drink their whiskey in cocktails, that's completely fine. And I think that's exactly what Whiskey Reaper is saying, right? It's Crown Royal Blackberry is not really a whiskey that you would sip. It's something that you would use in a cocktail. I feel that with any whiskey, I would rather find a way of trying to enjoy it as close to its singularity as possible, with blends that you can find in the supermarket. You might not even have to bother. A lot of times that's exactly what I do. I just get Black Label, put a splash of sparkling water on it, and just start drinking it. But it's a single malt. Some people consider this anathema. Others, in fact, advocate for it. I usually add a couple of drops of water and let it sit a little bit. And at least from my experience, it helps open up flavors. I think when you drink something absolutely neat, especially if it's an integrity bottling with 46% or even higher alcohol content, you really don't get to experience the full palette of flavors, because just as an ice cube, whether it's a slush or a one big rock, just as that numbs your senses in your mouth, so does alcohol. For alcohol to serve as a proper conduit for those flavors, it needs to be activated in a certain way, and very kindly. Not with lots of ice or lots of water, but a few drops at the time. One of my favorite YouTubers ever is Ralphie, whose channel is, I think, still called Ralphie.com. I will drop the link. And he uses the absolutely scientific instrument called the teaspoon. And I think, the experience and the kind of reputation he built for reviewing whiskey and other quality spirits is unimpeachable. So Ralphie Reviews is right there at Ralphie.com. And everyone basically knows him. I'm so happy that that's also the case with my friend Van Lux in the chat. At lot 18, we have a lovely Rolex GMT Master 2, the black, otherwise known as the Professor Special on this channel. You guys would know this is one of his favorite Rolex watches. His personal example has a very sentimental and significant story about it. Maybe next time he's on the channel, he will share that story himself. But as you know, this GMT Master 2 was the platform with which Rolex launched its ceramic bezels. At the time, the colors were particularly tricky. So the first stab was at black. There's always, of course, the rumor still making the rounds that finding certain combinations and the balance in the colors, balance of the colors in those combinations may have been particularly hard for Rolex, but this was even more so the case at the beginning when they introduced the 116710 LN, which stands for Lunette Verte. And I also like the fact that the 24-hour hand here is green. I don't know if I'm being colorblind or if these pictures are particularly bad quality, which is unfortunately something still some auction platforms suffer from. I really struggle to understand this, especially when you're running an online-only auction. Why wouldn't you want to provide the most extensive, the highest quality pictures? Why not add a video to it as well? Inaichen does usually, but they skimped out on the quote-unquote production quality in this particular round, and the results speak for themselves, right? They should have at least given it the good old college try, as they say. This was lot 18, which didn't sell because the reserve was not met. The maximum bid didn't even get close to the buy it now price, which was set at 17,100, and the maximum bid stood at 13,100. My other criticism would be that there is no mention or visual confirmation of anything other than the condition report, which is very good, small signs of wear, very good, small signs of wear, mint condition, right? They were all listed like this, all the lots that we have looked at so far. And you know, you have to tell people about these things, right? Well, what kind of collateral does this watch come with? A generic Rolex presentation box, papers, tags, everything, booklets, receipts from the store. It can be anything, but there's absolutely no information, no photograph of a spread if anything is included. In this day and age and in this economy, why would anyone continue to buy watches, pay the premium, pay prices that are sometimes significantly over list prices, or sometimes even slightly above, in this case, the going rate on the market, just for the privilege of buying from you? Again, Inaichen is one of my favorites, but I really don't know where their mind is, especially in this particular case. Lot 19 is the new root beer. This is the GMT Master 2 root beer that was inspired by one of the classic two-tone executions in Rolex's past catalog. The original ones, as you might know, came from the 4-digit series. 1675 /3 was the two-tone, /8 was the full 18 karat yellow gold version. They had those distinctive conical hour markers that are called usually a nipple dial because of that voluptuous shape. But obviously, what was most root beer about those watches, about those series, whether we are talking about 16755, 16753, 16758, and later examples, was the dial, which actually was brown and had this sunburst effect. And I have a very nicely patinated 5-digit transitional one with a nipple dial that actually reminds you of that root beer flavored candy, right? That you sucked on just a little bit. So there is that's kind of inviting transparency to it too. I'm obviously really hesitating to say certain things in, you know, when Van Lux is in the chat, you see he's already talking about nipples and stuff. This is figurative language, Van Lux. We are not actually talking about nipples per se. We are talking about nipple dials. That reminds me, by the way, there was, I remember I was in a DTLA jeweler once, one of those that actually do their business in the high rises, you know, where you have to take an elevator and go up and you know, kind of go through security, etc. And I remember he was getting shy with the whole talk about the nipple dial when I brought it up, because there was a woman customer, there was a female customer as well that he was attending to. So I guess there is always that juxtaposition. Pavel says, Lord, Watch Nicholas chalks up mild animosity, Ray Higgins, to be the root of your separation. Mild animosity sounds like an extreme euphemism. I think Higgins is basically at the root of all evil and drama that I know in this particular realm. I don't like the guy. I don't rate the guy. I'm not impressed by his supposed watch knowledge either. And yeah, I mean, Watch Nicholas actually, you know, played a kind of double game when it comes to that, giving me a certain story, but then you know, just doing shows with Higgins quite frequently. And I said, look, I mean, you know, in a very civil way, I said, if you're going to do shows with Higgins, who literally reached out to people behind the scenes to hurt my channels, to take away my earnings, to take food off my table. If you collaborate with that guy, you cannot collaborate with me, because he hurt me, he hurt my pockets. And Watch Nicholas's answer was, get fucked. So, you know, no hard feelings on my part. I never took him seriously on any level. So, you know, who cares? But that's the entire story when it comes to that. Colonel, where are you? Where's your live? Where's your live stream?
It's done. It's done. I asked you to join. You didn't show up. You know, I gave you the thing. It's over.
You said 8:30.
Oh fuck. I meant, oh shit.
5:30, 5:30, 8:30
East,
Eastern time. Is that?
I was
Oh,
using Eastern time.
I'm sorry, man. It's
I
you.
was using Eastern.
Yeah, that's
I was
okay.
using
That's
Eastern
okay.
time.
No
Okay,
worries.
okay. Look,
Thanks for
you
dropping by.
said, you said nipples, and all of a sudden, I tuned in as you were talking about nipples, and that got my
Beautiful
attention. We had a very interesting live stream. We were talking about, it was mostly a
nipples.
drama. I'm not really, huh?
You were talking about nipples as well on your live stream.
Yeah, we're actually talking. I really, I'm trying to do like, a little, mostly serious stuff with a little dash of, you got to have a little entertainment, and listen, it's very important, I think, to cover the entire spectrum of the watch. The matrix, it's a mosaic, right? You need to know what's happening, because all these
Yeah.
things do affect the market. I mean, even it's like the butterfly effect. You're familiar with that, the butterfly effect?
Uh, yes, Colonel.
So
I'm
so for the punters, can you explain it for the punters what the butterfly effect is?
Butterfly effects literally comes from the idea that on the edge of the universe, a butterfly might flap its wings, and that's through certain chains of reaction will change something else that happens in another part of the universe. So every small thing that we do um, has an effect on the universe, but I think that's a very minimalist way of putting it. I
No,
mean,
no,
I'm
you're
not
very
talking about
articulate.
my. I'm
Yeah,
not.
you're very.
I'm not even. I mean, our channels, of course, are quite humble in terms of size, even though sometimes we do get exposure that is disproportionate to that. But when it comes to some of these bigger watch influencers, who have hundreds of thousands, 500,000, or 1 million subscribers on YouTube or more, they actually have the possibility to manipulate the market. And
Yeah.
in fact, in
So
some
here's
instances, they do.
Yeah, Brandon. So here's what I meant, like the butterfly effect. I mean, my version of it. I mean, you're very articulate. You're like, again, you're an intellectual. I'm like just a guy. I'm just I'm like the average guy. And so the butterfly effect is basically a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, in Rio, on the beach in Rio. And 8,000 miles away somewhere, it creates a tsunami in Tokyo. Everything adds up, right? So I think it's important to know, because like, for example, let's say you got like some grifter, like a monkey eyebrow leprechaun in Venice, talks about a watch, or something he mentions, or there's some drama that might affect interest in another watch or something. So it's important,
Right.
because I'm a like a markets guy at the end of the day, right? To me, it's very interesting. The valuations, the market movement is as interesting as the watch, because it's kind of like, hey, it's like you're making a bet. I'm looking at okay, I'm making a bet. See what happens with the watch, right? So it's interesting. You got information. Information is everything, right? So I like to have as much information as possible. Information is power, right? So anyway,
Yes, sir.
that's we had a very interesting live stream. We talked about Anthony, the timepiece gentleman, who's in your neighborhood, right, in Beverly Hills.
I'm not in Beverly Hills. I be in Beverly Hills very often, but I don't live there.
Oh, okay. I thought you were, for some reason, I thought you were doing something from there. Where are you, by the way? Where do you live? I'm not. I don't
Uh,
need to know the address. I'm not coming to your house. And don't be paranoid. I'm not.
I wish
I'm not a
I
stalker.
wish you would. I wish you would, Colonel. I live in downtown LA.
Oh, downtown LA. Oh, it's funny. I was looking at your background. It looked like kind of like one of those loftings. Wow. Downtown. Oof. Downtown has got to be pretty scary now. I haven't been there. Like, I try to avoid downtown. I mean, I know it's like where all the cool kids are. I don't know if.
Have you seen my face, Colonel? I'm usually the one who scares people away. Don't worry about that.
With that baseball cap, you look like one of those Iranian Revolutionary Guard guys. You got the beard, you got the baseball cap. You could be doing one of those parades. They have that same type of baseball cap.
I mean, the gene pool is pretty similar. What can I tell you?
So it's funny. So
Um,
anyway, so Anthony, he was in Beverly Hills, right? And the timepiece gentleman, and it was this guy Crime Piece did a report. It's amazing. He in high school, and he found one of his old classmates. And the guy said that Anthony, and he gave him the whole story. I mean, it's amazing. It was shocking. Like he said that the guy basically he stole his first watch in high school from this guy. Then he stole this. It gets better. It gets better. Wait. It gets better. He stole the girls' panties, from the locker rooms. They caught him, and he was caught masturbating to a Britney Spears picture that he printed out on the computer printer in the lab, right? Well, listen, here's the thing. And then we were talking about Jeffrey Epstein, and we got into a lot of different areas, and it all ties into watches, right? Because everything is related. It all goes into, it all ties in. And then we were talking about
sorry, but how does Epstein relate to watches? Explain
how
that
does
to me.
Epstein relate to watches? I forgot how it popped up. We were talking about something, and Jeffrey Epstein came up, and I mentioned, it's funny. I knew a couple of, like, I was like 1 degree removed from Jeffrey Epstein, but I was saying Jeffrey Epstein basically was he was the victim in all the stuff, because he was basically paying these girls. They were employees. They weren't like victims. They came back
Colonel,
multiple times.
I'm sorry. I will have to shut that talk down. I'm not commenting, nor am I providing
we're not
a
going to talk
platform for
it's
for that
controversial.
kind of conspiracy theory. I mean, we all know that the laundry doesn't hang itself. So we know that part. But,
No, okay. We're not going to talk. No, we're not going to talk. But it all tied into Rolex, because I was saying that Anthony was look. I actually admire the fact that the guy was hardworking and willing to go the distance to do whatever it takes to buy his first real watch. I mean, whether it means selling these girls' panties into the Japanese market for those vending machines so he could buy his first Rolex, and it all basically built up from there. So it's an American success story, is what I'm saying. I actually think he's sort of like, it's like the movie Scarface, except sort of like a different version. But it's like, he wanted the American dream. I think it's important.
Yeah, well, I mean, except he's in the feds now, no?
He's nearby you. He's near downtown LA. You could visit him almost, right? That's the lockup is not too far.
That's where he's there. That's where he's being held right now.
In LA, yeah, in LA. Also, we're talking about what is it? I actually tuned in. You were talking about this guy Higgins. I had actually a very interesting interaction with Higgins, and we were talking about Langen. I did a video on Langen. Basically they're a Nazi company, right? I mean, there's my whole thing is that basically it's a shitter watch that's kind of like a Nazi nostalgia watch, basically.
No, I mean, I don't know where that narrative comes from.
Which narrative? Which narrative?
I mean, here, look, during World War II, basically just about any Swiss watch company that you can dream up in terms of name brand supplied watches to the Germans, to the Italians.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
To the fascists. Seiko literally made pilot watches for kamikaze pilots.
Yeah, but they need to know the time. The kamikaze pilots, they need good timing. They probably had turnographs.
For example, if you find a nice Omega chronograph from 1940s and it has a black dial, and you ask for an archival extract, right, to the Omega Heritage and Museum section, which, for other reasons, as you might know, they stopped giving out extracts. But in a hypothetical situation, a lot of times when you ask for information for such watches, they come up pretty skimpy on where it was sold, where it was delivered, because they don't want to expose that kind of connection. So to call a German brand, and I'm speaking as a Jew now, right? So whatever that means, whatever that counts for, but to call a German brand Nazi or a German person Nazi just because they
No, no,
are
no, no.
German,
No, no,
just
no, no,
because
no, no,
they're
no, no,
based
no.
in
No, you,
Germany.
you're taking it.
That's
You're taking the wrong thing. No, no,
that's
no. I'm not.
shady.
No, no, no.
That's not right.
No, no. That's not where I'm going. Absolutely not. That's not where I'm going. Because listen, everybody, all those companies. The difference is this, right? You look at the Langen Son history. They actually were creating special watches for Hitler in the early 1930s before he really came to power. I mean, like really before nobody was forced to do anything. There was no war. They did it out of their admiration. They created a gift for him. Now, you could say, if you were generous, you could say, well, yeah, they wanted to curry favor in the hopes of,
Can we read this story together? Can you send me a link so we can open up and
yeah,
go through this?
it's online. Yeah, just Google just Google A. Langenson Nazi, and you'll see this. I have a video anyway. But here's where I'm going.
Colonel, I'm sorry, man. It's not like I can't.
No,
I can't.
No, it's all there. The
Like,
pictures. It's
for
all there.
me,
It's all there. No,
again,
seriously.
like I like the shtick, right? I'm the supposed intellectual, and you just throw things around. But if you are calling me that, you cannot tell me that just typing a few words on Google counts as research, and that we should.
No. It's not. This whole article. Listen, this whole article. Let's put that aside for a second. Let's put the Nazi thing aside for a second. My main issue with the watch is not the Hitler provenance. My main issue with the watch is that, I had a debate with this Higgins guy. We were talking, and he said, "Oh, it's accurate. The watch is accurate, because we're talking about Patek versus." I said, "Listen, I don't give a shit how accurate it is. The debate about accuracy, that was settled by the Casio, by the quartz. Digital watches, your mobile phone is more accurate. So when I buy a watch, when I'm looking at, I'm buying the aesthetics. I'm buying the way it looks, and then it's nice to know that under the hood there is a legitimate engine, right? It's nice to know that, because ultimately, and the same thing with cars, right? But here's the thing: with cars, the engine makes a big difference. You feel it. It creates a whole sensation. With a watch, the movement has zero effect on your experience, unless you're a movement fetishist.
Untrue.
How's that?
Especially when it comes to Lange. Again, I'm not assuming anything, so I'm just asking. It's not a trick question. How many Lange watches have you handled?
I've handled a few.
Did you take your time to wind them, play around with the pushers?
Okay. So here's the thing, right?
Did you?
No. But here's the thing.
Okay. Well,
I don't give a shit about that. I don't give a shit about that.
That's okay. But to say that you don't give a shit about that is categorically different than saying whatever is under the hood and what is the movement of a watch does not affect the user experience. Of course it does. It affects the way you wind the watch. It affects the way that crown feels. It affects the way that the pushers feel. It affects the way when you use a chronograph, whether the seconds hand stutters when you start it, whether when you reset it, the minutes hand starts jumping. If it's a bad movement, it can completely destroy your experience.
No.
If it's a good movement, it will not give you a headache. If it's a great movement, beyond its aesthetics, with the exhibition case back and all, if it's a great movement, it will actually literally enhance your appreciation of
100%.
watch.
No, but here's what I'm saying. I was comparing basically, I wasn't comparing, apples to Hershey bars, right? I was comparing, apples to different. Okay, I was comparing a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar. Okay, yeah. I was comparing a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar, the 3940 specifically, to he has some wacky tourbillon, whatever, and he was telling me, oh, this is blah blah blah, and I said, I don't like. Listen, they're both accurate. Okay, the Patek Philippe, I don't know. It's I'm comparing like animals. I'm not comparing Longa to a I don't know, a Timex. I'm comparing Longa to AP, to Patek, to Omega, whatever. They're all the same. They're all just as good. They really are, I think, pretty much. Not. I mean, we're not talking about like massive differences. Look, the Longas, the finishing, I get all that stuff, but the aesthetics is again, that watch appeals. I did a video where I said it appeals basically to people who have who are basically, again, I said, you don't want to get into the Nazi thing, but I said, look, it appeals to two audiences, either, Nazi nostalgists or gear fetishists, like people who are into like machinery fetish. And, a lot of the Germans have a lot of weird sexual fetishes. And, that there is a direct correlation. Like, that's what the watch is. The people who buy that watch are usually into S&M. They're into like weird toilet fetishes. Listen, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge people.
That's by the way, right from Archie Luxury's box that you're stealing from.
Yeah, no, and by the way, that is completely. It's complete. What is this?
No, now, okay. To be serious, but also run around with this whole idea about how your choices of watch brands can actually reflect your emotional state, the way you want to appear, the way you wish you would appear. So this is King Flum, great watch memes on Instagram. Someone that I also converse with through direct messages. So just to put that out there.
Exactly.
He found on Reddit, I think he found this guy who does AI images of stereotypical wearers of certain brands.
Yeah, it's funny. That is hilarious.
Here are some examples. This is Omega, and the guy looks suspiciously like Federico, by the way. I don't know if that was intentional. Although Federico lost a lot of weight, by the way, which I really admire.
I actually think the average Omega guy is not a fat guy. I think it's actually kind of like more of like an engineering type of, like like one of these nerds in Silicon Valley, or like or a guy. Like, it's not that guy. It's the guy in this picture would probably have like a Rolex. He's not the.
I love how you are so easily making the Nazi associations with Lange, but you're resisting like the body image of an Omega wearer. Really?
I think it's wrong because it's usually not a fat guy. The Omega Speedmaster is not a fat guy. I don't think he is.
Well,
I think we should do research. I want to do research.
Oshin loves Speedmasters, and he's fucking fat. So that's my argument, right there.
I don't think no. He's not as fat as this guy. No, the fat guys like Rolex.
Oshin is fat, just not morbidly obese.
Not like this guy. Not like this guy.
That's a nuance. Yeah, this is morbidly obese. Oshin is fat.
Oh, okay. You know what?
This is Cartier.
Okay. No, it's not like no. But here's the thing: fat guys like Rolex Submariners. They like that Rolex Submariner or whatever. So it gives them that they can pretend that they're James Bond diving. It's whatever. The Speedmaster is more of it's a disciplined person. I think it's more of a disciplined person. It's not going to be a fat guy. Fat guys wear Yachtmaster. That's fun. Look at these comments here. This is funny. This is funny.
This is Cartier. Funny. Number 2 is Cartier. What do you think of the?
I don't think this is accurate. I don't think this is kind of a high exaggeration. This is very exaggerated. Very exaggerated. Extremely. This is like extremely exaggerated.
I'm loving this. You have no problem associating A. Lange und Söhne with Nazism, but a little bit of a joke about.
I think it's more accurate.
Omega wearers being a little bit of a joke about Omega wearers being fat nerds, and Cartier wearers being metrosexual is somehow wrong.
I think it's I don't think the Speedmaster people are fat. I don't. I think they're generally tend to be more of like actually on the other side. I think they tend to be like what's the word obsessive compulsive, whatever. They're like a fitness guy. That's because the watch is very basic. It's a very pared down. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I do think a fat guy would buy a Daytona. Fat guys like Rolex. They love Rolex. They don't like Omega. I don't think so. Whatever. I don't want to argue. They're not paying me. I'm not on the payroll of Omega. I don't give a shit.
I don't know. It feels like you give a shit. What about Cartier? Why do you resist
I hate.
this one?
By the way, I hate Omega. To me, it's a dull brand. They can go fuck themselves. I don't give a shit. Cartier. Actually, I missed out on the Cartier thing. I missed out. What do you think? Oh, let's get into some serious why. Let's put aside all the bullshit.
This is Rolex. This is Rolex. It's basically a cut.
Funny. That's accurate. That's accurate. That guy looks like one of these typical Rolex guys. They got the beard, the whole thing, the hipster like thing. Yeah, it's like the car. Oh, they don't have the shorts on, but yeah, it's the basic thing. But anyway, what do you think of this Cartier? I like it. Who's this girl? What is this? What watch they have? Tag.
This makes me want to buy a Tag, man. It's
me too. Exactly. I was about to say, shit. This is like, I like Asian girls. Yeah, that's my type. Go to some Korean barbecue in LA. I was in LA last week. I would have met up with you, but you're playing hard to get. You think I'm a stalker or something. I'm not. I was gonna do an interview with you at that cigar place. Because I had to go to a dentist in Beverly Hills on what is it, Wilshire and what the fuck is I don't know.
I'm playing hard to get for live streams. You didn't approach me to meet in person.
Oh, I don't know. You're a busy guy. I don't know. You're a busy guy. You're going to casting couches. I don't know what you're doing all day. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. You're hard to get.
Well, ask. Next time, just send a message. This is Tag.
Okay.
So if you wear Tag, you apparently qualify for this particular body
this
type.
This would be a great, actually, this is very, very accurate in terms of like, that's the audience that they're trying to sell you that message basically. It's actually very good. It's very good. Yeah, this is great.
I feel like the AI is somehow slanted towards Tag. It's not entirely fair. This is
It's better if you get the tongue out. I want to see a big tongue licking the window. The window.
So AP. This fits. This is AP. Yeah.
Very accurate. Actually, very accurate. Not so much the clothing. If the guy had a hoodie, I don't know. The AI is wrong on this. The AP guy would usually have the hoodie
painted on beard. I think that fits. That fits.
I've actually never seen a painted on beard. Is that a thing? Is that a thing? A painted on beard?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have gone beyond it in the sense that just like you can get hair implants, people get beard implants.
I've never seen that. I've never heard of it. I never heard of it. But basically, this guy, so the AP guy would normally have the hoodie. I mean, the modern. I'm talking about the modern AP guy, the AP guy of a post. Let's call it pandemic era. Bitcoin era AP guy. Yeah, post 2019. They got the hoodie like with some logo, whatever. I don't know if it's Balenciaga. Steve McQueen. Not McQueen. What is it? Alexander McQueen is the new thing.
Yes.
The what's the other thing? The or Supreme. They got the backpack. This is the wrong thing because this guy's got like some sloppy jewelry. No, usually the AP guys have like a diamond, just a diamond neck. I don't even know what they call it. Like a diamond necklace, 2 diamond necklaces, 2 diamond chains, or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But it's the look. They got the couple of chains, hoodie, and the backpack, like a Louis Vuitton backpack. This is the wrong. They got the thing. Who's this guy?
This is Seika, apparently. It's
that's right. Exactly right.
Life of a salary man. Yeah.
100%. This is it. 100%. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
this
funny.
I think is actually quite depressing rather than being funny, but I get it. We laugh at, we laugh when we can't cry. So that's that. This is ball.
But I don't understand this brand. Like I don't get like I don't understand this.
Yeah, there's not much to understand.
Oh, it's a train. Yeah, it's a train. I don't know.
Hublot. Hublot.
Yeah. No, this is actually very good. How do they do this? It's amazing. It's amazing stuff.
And IWC.
That's funny, actually. That's it's funny. I did a thing about Submariner because I like this thing. What does your watch say about you? It's a good clickbait, right? And I said the Submariner guy, the guy who wears the black Submariner, the black face, black bezel, is it's the guy you see in Midtown. I don't know, not so much in LA. They don't have that in it, but in New York, in Midtown, it's the guy. He's got the fleece zip up, the fleece jacket, the fleece vest, dress shirt, no tie, and he's holding a Starbucks. He's holding the 16-ounce Starbucks. The
That's
basic
right.
bitch Starbucks. That's the guy. If you go on Park Avenue and 52nd Street, you see hundreds of guys like that. Like literally, you can stand there, you can roll the tape, and you can bring a guy and say, "Hey, what watch are you wearing?" 9 out of 10, it's like probably in London also. You go in London and in like Mayfair or whatever, and they're all at 5 o'clock. They're all drinking the pints, and they all got the same fucking Submariner.
Can you blame them though? It's safe, right? It's
no. What do you think? Hold on, Brando. What is you're like you seem like a fashion guy. I was talking about the new emergence, of the Dirty Sanchez mustache. Are you familiar with it? What that is?
I would rather, porn stash. Let's call it that. Yeah, I would rather not racialize it, but yeah.
Okay. No, it has nothing to do with actually. Well, I guess originally. Well, there was a guy named Sanchez originally, I guess, who did this thing, and but whatever. But it has nothing to do with Mexicans or anything. It's a guy. There was a guy apparently, and that's the guy that started it. It's not. It's basic. How do I explain it to you? You're gonna have to Google it afterwards because it's not a family-friendly thing. It describes a certain act. It's not about. It's not about.
Act. Yeah, I mean, I know the sexual act. Yes.
Personally, you've had experience, or how do you know this?
But the porn stash, it's becoming pretty popular. I'm more encouraged by that because, I don't mind shaving, but I actually quite like growing a beard, and it's gotten. I hate things when they become too fashionable, and the trend was, as you know, until very recently, everyone was growing a beard, and it was mostly because they don't really have decent facial structure, right? So they are trying to hide something behind all that hair. So I'm glad that's going away. So the masks are falling off, and now they're only leaving a mustache, which adds some visual interest in the upper lip, which some people lack, as you know. But it's better. It's better. I like it.
Yes. No, so I had a thing where I had a thing with all these watch guys, these watch YouTubers. They all have the let's call it the porn stash. You want to listen? I'm on your show. I'll behave. They all have porn stashes. You're talking about like 5 of these guys. There's 5 of these guys. I have a picture of 5 in a row. They all have the porn stash now, and actually, it's funny. I talked about the beard. I think the beard came into prominence in the early 2005, 2006, with Afghanistan, Iraq. You had all the special forces guys that had to grow beards, to blend in basically, because in the military, nobody had beards before. That was, totally unheard of. But, there were, what do they call them? Operators, Delta Force, whatever. So they had to have a beard to blend in the Middle East. And I think when they came back, all these guys, they figured, hey, you know what? I'm going to pick up that look because it makes me look like I'm on SEAL Team 6, and I got my Omega Speedmaster. So not only am I SEAL Team 6, but I'm also an astronaut. I got my Submariner and a beard. I got a Submariner and a beard. I'm ready to be, whatever. Anyway, so what where are we going with this? What do you think of Cartier, by the way?
Listen, again, it's one of those things I feel that is getting ruined for me by all the hype. I am a huge fan. I love vintage Cartier, usually from a safe distance. Like, I really appreciate a lot of the designs as objects, as beautiful things.
Oh, objects. Oh, objects, not movement.
I would,
Oh, it's objects.
that
Oh,
I
your
would
looks.
that I would
You're
rather
shallow.
not what. I have the keys here, right, Colonel? So you'll have to let me speak on my own channel, or you might find yourself out of the door quite soon. So I appreciate them as objects that I would not wear myself, for the most part. Like, some of the designs, like Crash, Pebble, they just look too out there for me to actually be worn on the wrist. I think it looks comical for most people, actually, when they wear watches like that.
So here's the thing, right? So it's funny. We're talking about Longa. You're talking about the movement and that. Now you like the looks only of the car. It's so the Cartier. It's interesting because all of a sudden, why is it all of a sudden became a hype thing? And they were never really popular. Like in the last, I don't know, let's call it. I mean, it's always a brand, but it's funny. Everybody was bagging on Cartier. All the watch people were bagging on Cartier in the last couple of years. Oh, it's not serious. Oh, it's blah blah. Then you had, all of a sudden, I think you have Jay-Z puts on a Cartier. They probably gave him a little money under the table, or whatever. I don't know. And all of a sudden, everybody's Cartier. Oh, this is the new thing. Oh, it's the
Look, I mean, it's not only big time celebrities like Jay-Z and Tyler the Creator and whatever. Waco is literally on Cartier's payroll. All these videos he does for them, he doesn't just do them because everyone is a friend, everything is an icon, everything is
iconic,
absolutely stunning, but because those brands pay him.
Yes.
It's very simple.
Everything is iconic on that revolution. The way everything is always iconic there. But so the thing with the Cartier is, I'm actually kind of shocked. Again, I like their like whatever. It's interesting. It's some interesting things. But all of a sudden, all of a sudden, these guys are pumping. But here's the thing. This leads me to, I think all these grifters are now trying to pump Ebel. Remember Ebel from the 80s, 90s, whatever? Ebel, remember that?
God. Yeah, I do. I mean, they have a few interesting things, but again, never really did it for me.
The Ebel, okay, so I was at the Miami Beach Antique Show, and there was an older deal, whatever, older guys, and a bunch of these guys, a bunch of the Italians are pushing Ebel. And here's the thing, I pay attention to the Italians because, look, the Italians usually have good taste, and it's kind of like they're really, they're kind of serious watch collectors. So you don't want to discount it, but Ebel, I mean, and here's the thing, Ebel was kind of interesting. I saw an interview with, who's the guy from MBNF? The MBNF guy?
Yeah, I talked about that interview. Max Büsser, that was his first serious watch, an Ebel chronograph.
He said he picked that. He was thinking of either a Rolex Daytona, and he went with the Ebel because at that time that was, listen, hey, if he says that, you got to kind of respect it. I mean, it's like, he's, it's got to be legit, no?
I didn't say that it isn't legit, but look at these case designs, for example. It just doesn't hit it for me. And like you said, I don't think it's shallow. I have to like what I'm looking at on my wrists, right? And I don't like how Ebel watches look for the most part.
Okay. How about the integrate? Okay, what about their bracelets? Are actually pretty nice. The steel and gold, the two-tone. Yeah. No, 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 not that, not that. The one where I had like a wavy pattern. I don't know what they called it, but you know, yeah, 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 right there, right there.
I despise this. This reminds me of that tacky bracelet they have for the Streamliner. Mose has it.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
it, to me,
It's
this is
interesting.
extremely dated. It's extremely dated. I just can't.
It's from
It's
1980s. What? It's dated. It's 1980s. What's
yeah, I
dated?
know.
1980s. So
I was born in that decade. I don't live there anymore.
okay, no, but here's the thing. So it's an 80s look. It is
Yeah.
what it is. It's like a Patek. It's like a Nautilus. The Nautilus also is dated. I mean, it's the same
I
idea.
also don't like the I also don't like the Nautilus. I love the Royal Oak, but
okay.
Nautilus to me
I had
always was too much
why?
for me.
Because you it's a gimmick, right? You think it's kitschy.
I think it's too fine. I think it's a little too precious for even a luxury sports watch. I think it looks too pretty.
No.
Um,
I think what you really want to say is it's a little too overproduced. Like you know, it looks like the air. It looks like the ship window with it. You got the three parts. It's like it's a little too. You know, it's a little too much. You know,
I think it just looks too precious. And
precious. Okay,
you
whatever.
know
We're
the
kind of
I mean, even later models that have kind of expanded the case, added complications, that I feel like is destroying the proportions of the watch in a certain way. So I don't really like those either. I think compared to the Royal Oak, which is the OG, it just feels
yeah. No, listen.
like a lesser iteration. But that's just my taste. It's not, it's
No,
not
it's
doesn't matter.
yeah. No. Listen, it's funny. I was kind of into the Royal Oak. I actually wanted it, not the Royal. Excuse me, the Nautilus, the 3800. You know, two tone. And you know what? I kind of I missed it, but and lately, the more I think about them, I realize, man, these things really look very, very dated. It's not a timeless design. It's a gimmicky look, and but the Royal Oak, on the other hand, is timeless, classic, and it is it just it's amazing. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where Gerald Genta, you know, he had a lot of hits and misses. You know, he wasn't perfect. He wasn't
Absolutely.
consistent. He had a share of dogs. You know, it's like a lot of artists, you know, they may have one great work and they have a lot of dogs, right? And you know, I'll compare him to uh trying to think, Peter Max. You know Peter Max? I don't know if he's still
I actually
alive.
don't know.
Peter Max, he was like a pop artist. He became very commercial, very like, you know, Prince, everything everywhere. But in the early 60s, he had a couple of very good paintings. He was like a serious artist, and that made his reputation. He had a couple of good paintings, and everything he did afterwards was garbage. Basically, it's commercial garbage, whatever. And that's but that built his reputation. And Gerald Genta, I think he had a couple of hits, and he had a lot of dogs. I mean, he had a lot. I mean, I don't want to like knock the guy because he had a lot of, but he had a lot of dogs. He had a lot of dogs. There's no question. So it's like all these guys say, "Oh, Gerald Genta, the iconic," you know, like everything the guy touches is. Yeah, it's not. It's
No, but
he had dogs.
I mean, you understand the workings of those things. What we are going through right now is a revival. In other words, it's just a hype, right? So everything that's touched by him comes back in a certain way. Even the
Yeah,
pole router, right? Which was designed by him at
nice
age
watch. Right,
23,
yeah,
which to me is one of my favorite designs by him, actually, is making a comeback. I'm sure Cartier seems too aloof to talk about the Pasha in that particular way, but I'm sure that's going to
Did
happen
he
soon.
wait?
Um,
Wait, did he make the Pasha?
yes, Pasha is Gerard Genta's design,
Wow.
and
See,
that's
that's
one
to
of
me.
the
That's
well documented ones, actually.
oof. To me, that is a dog with like fleas and rabies.
I understand, but that all testifies to exactly what you're saying, right? Beyond our personal taste. The same
Yeah,
guy designed the Universal Genève pole router. The same guy designed uh, Cartier's Pasha. The same guy designed the Royal Oak. The same guy designed the Nautilus. The same
yeah.
guy designed those Grand Sonneries with pyramidal cases for his own brands. Um, So there are certain shared lines and ideas that can give you some sort of consistent aesthetic thread, but the final products are so disparate from each other that it would be truly neurotic to say I love everything Janta. That's just
No,
not possible. If you
what it
any
is.
personal, like if you have any grain of personal taste and like one single brain cell, you would know I like this one, I really hate this one. This one is okay because, like you said, it's all over the place. It runs the
You know
gamut.
what?
The guy was
Here's the thing.
literally driving his car in the valley and selling commissions for 100, 200, 300 francs at a time. That's what Janta was doing. He was a true freelancer, just scribbling, sketching constantly and selling them. That makes him a real artist, not
Yeah, no,
the
no, but here's
aesthetic
the thing.
quality of
No, but I
every
gotta
single
give
thing that he does.
no, you got to give the guy credit because listen, a lot of artists they're stuck with one style. They're known for like really one style, and that's it. They do the same thing for 100 years, their whole career. This guy basically he tried so many things. He wasn't locked into one thing. I mean, he had a certain like in the 70s with the Royal Oak Nautilus, I think the Ingenieur or whatever. He did a bunch of that looked kind of similar, but he really experimented. He got the Mickey Mouse, all the other shit. Like he was really like all over the map. I'm sure a lot of companies came to him and said, "Hey, wow, the Royal Oak was great. Can you give us something similar? Can you give us, which Patek did and what." I don't know. Is it what is it? Bulgari. Like everybody wants, but he's very. You got to give the guy credit. I just, it's just you got to be careful. My thing is, the thing with Genta is like, he's not like in the what is it? The pants, like I don't know, like he doesn't walk on water. This guy, the Aquanaut is a piece of shit. Like that's a piece of shit. Like. That is a fucking turd. But anyway, so Ebel, you're not bullish on Ebel. You don't think Ebel is. You think it's hype.
But what does it mean to say that? Right? We were just talking about the the clapping of someone's ass cheeks on a beach, Rio Beach, and how that affects the rate of the watch market. So when we say something becomes a hype watch, a hype brand, it's not something that we can wish away. It still has its effects on the market. So when like Philips auction house does an entire spread of watches that is substantiated by interviews and seals of approval by famous collectors and vintage experts, all of that will affect, at least in the short term, the value of these pieces. So you will start seeing more and more Ebel watches in on Instagram feeds, in videos, perhaps even. So I think it's something that's going to pick up, and probably if you're late to the party, I would suggest, and you actually like Ebel, I would say sit this one out, wait a little more until the fad dies down, and then maybe it can be a good pickup. If you're really desperate, get it while the getting is good, because I think in short term these things are going to be sold for more, because that one Philips article justifies it for some seller on the other corner of the globe to list the Ebel he has in stock for a higher price on Chrono 24. And then some other fool sees that marked up price and actually thinks that's market value. And there's the demonstration of the butterfly effect for you. That's exactly how it works. So it is hype, but hype is real. Hype actually has carried watches in exaggerated value for quite some time.
But here's the thing, right? So here's the thing, though. Some hype works. In other words, sometimes the bubble inflates, and sometimes it does. So, sometimes the bubble, because it can get legs, it can trend, and other times it doesn't. Like I don't know if Ebel has the legs for a big trend. I think it may have like a little bit of a flurry. it may have a flurry, and we're seeing like guys trying to push it. Like, you know how these guys, they bought they accumulated a bunch of inventory. Now they're trying to, like, it's like a pump and dump, right? So they're trying to push it now, but and again, it's funny.
That's a great point. No, that's a great point, and we can give a great example from our friend Waco, because everyone is a friend, as you know.
Yes, we're friends.
He has complete. He has plugged Cartier a lot, and Cartier has been riding on a much more substantive, widespread wave of interest that has preceded also, to a large extent, this sort of social media push. But he has also done a lot of videos for Bulgari as well, and especially for the Octo Finissimo.
Yeah.
And I love that design, and I know, I will give you the floor to shit all over it. I don't mind. I don't care. But there's absolutely no hype for the Octo Finissimo, no matter how much certain channels and media outlets try to plug it, call it
Why?
the new icon and the new classic and whatever else.
Okay.
Like you said, sometimes it just doesn't carry. Sometimes it just doesn't lead into.
So, in your opinion, why do you think the Octo, which has everything it takes to be, to trend, why hasn't it been able to really get off the ground? Like, it's funny. I was actually in a Bulgari store. I was curious about the watch. It's a very big watch. But I was curious. It was across the street from another place. I walked in, and they were the salespeople were all, she was very, very friendly, very, unlike, some other.
Yes.
They were they had watches. Yes, they were trying to sell them.
Friendly at the Bulgari store.
Yes. And what do you call it? But why? And this has everything. It's got the Genta design. It's a big, huge watch. It's flashy. Not too flashy, but it's flashy. How come nobody is?
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. You talked about big watches, right? People like big watches. People like bracelet watches when it comes to hype. Like you said, people like a certain heritage of design, but that's where the trouble starts. That's where things get a little hairy for Bulgari, because Bulgari has heritage in spades, but that's in jewelry, not necessarily in watchmaking. Even though they have a certain history, it's not something that has been appreciated by the mainstream. This is a Janta/Janta-esque design, because even if the octagonal core, the octo shape, is something that Janta did for Bulgari, the final design of this is actually, it belongs to Fabrizio Bonamassa Stigliani. So it's not actually designed by Janta. So some people who care about that at all might move away from it. You said that it's a big watch. It's a big watch, but in the sense, it's a big watch that feels disproportionate to some, because it looks big on the wrist, but it doesn't feel big.
No,
which is a disjunctive experience. I love it as an experience. I still didn't bite the bullet, so do what you will with that information. But I talk to all sorts of watch collectors, and the mainstream watch collector, right, the guy who just likes watches and makes an entire collection on impulse purchases without thinking much, without watching anything, without reading anything, without really educating himself. Those guys want watches that feel rich on their wrist, that have heft, that have substance, that have weight.
I see where you're going. It's a very
Octo doesn't have it. Octo is the exact opposite of that. It's ultra thin, it's paper thin, it's too light.
Too elegant.
And yeah, maybe it's too precious in its own way. The same kind of accusation I leveled against the Nautilus can be leveled against the Octo Finissimo as well, even though it's a little more angular.
It's different.
Of course, but I like it.
No, I see where you're going. I see where you're going, because what I noticed was that it was the bracelet, on the back of it, when you see it's kind of hollowed out to make it lighter. And in a way, it feels a little cheap in a way. It's not like, it doesn't feel like a solid watch. It doesn't feel like a solid, it's a little bit light in the loafers. It's light in the loafers. You know what I mean?
So
It's that's what it is.
You are touching on something important there, because and we talked about, like, you were ribbing on Rolex buyers, right? So for certain people, especially for mainstream people in luxury watches, who are trained in luxury watches, who are socialized into luxury watches with modern Rolex, this is the other end of the spectrum. This is an experience that doesn't make sense to them as luxury experience, because, like you said, the watch just feels a little hollow if you're approaching it from the point of even stainless steel watches from Rolex weighing a whole ton. It feels
We got a
solid.
super chat. We got a super chat from Pavel. How do you feel about she-males?
Enjoyable conversation, guys. She males forever. Isn't that supposed to be a one word? Isn't that supposed to be one word?
It's one word. Yeah. Listen. We don't. It's one word. It's one word. You're very particular. You're very particular about. We were talking about the trend. We went on a conversation about transvestites and something about it was a whole conversation. But anyway, so we got a carryover of she-maleism.
Thank you, Pop.
What do you think is a good watch?
Super chat.
What do you think is a good watch for, let's say, let me ask you a question. You're a man of style. What do you think for let's say a transsexual, like not a trans, like a guy who basically goes, who can pull it off? I'm not talking about a guy who's like a trucker. I mean a guy who can pull it off looking like a woman. What kind of watch should that person wear? What do you think would be a good watch? Let's say Bruce Jenner or Carl, whatever he calls himself. What the hell? What the hell is it? It's a lie. Whatever the fuck he calls himself. I don't know. What watch? Because he was a good looking guy. He should have done it when he was younger.
Who are we? When he was younger, I don't remember who.
Bruce Jenner. What does he call himself now? What is the name? The Kardashian guy became a transsexual. Jenner. What the fuck is his first name now?
Caitlyn.
Okay. So Caitlyn. Okay. So Caitlyn, what watch do you think Caitlyn would be a good look for Caitlyn?
Any watch that would look good on a woman would look great on a trans female. I think. That's my comment.
Okay, I actually think, I think on women, right? I think you want like a kind of a masculine watch because you want a contrast, right? I think like a good look is a date 36. I think it's a great look. Even you can go maybe to 40, but it's a good look, right? I think it's actually women can pull it off,
Yeah, look, I mean, a Rolex sports watch could look great. I'm sure she has an entire collection already. I think a lot of Cartier's catalog would look amazing, depending on what size you choose, and size absolutely matters, as it came up in the earlier conversation. Don't let them fool you. Size matters.
Yes,
it absolutely does.
So, what do we go? So we went on to okay. So what about? I was going to ask you. Oh. Let's get back to you. I wanted to do an interview with you talking about your collection, how you got into watches, but you kept dodging me. So why don't we do it now? How did you get into this? Like, what is you're very knowledgeable. You have a really in-depth knowledge, right? This is it's obvious.
Yeah.
So what's your background? Are you in the business, or how did you develop this knowledge?
Look, without talking about my professional situation or giving my CV, the familiar story to the audience of this channel. So I'm just going to repeat it. Hopefully people don't get bored from it. I was given by my mother, my late father's Submariner, upon getting admission to college. So upon graduating high school, I was given my father's Submariner, a 5513, which basically started this obsession for me, because it was a great watch. I loved it on first sight. It was also a vessel of some serious memories for me, memories that I didn't even properly have, because my dad passed away when I was only 3 years old. And I was just completely overwhelmed by that magic, right? You know, how this thing that you can carry with yourself through your everyday life can bring a piece of that person with you, how you can somehow almost merge with that person's energy, because it's a self-winding watch. It literally gains new life by the motion of your wrist. That to me still always blows my mind, as much as I love playing around with hand-wound movements. And the more I gain appreciation for hand-wound movements, a simple self-winding mechanical watch always has that charm for me, because it's put to work by your own motion, by your own liveliness.
It ties you in, because you know, it's the connection that, you know, your father, you know, did that same movement to get the watch going. He did the same thing, and you're, you know, it's kind of like it all kind of ties in, right? That's, yeah. I actually love winding a watch. It's a great thing. It's a great great thing. So what you left already? What's going on here? We're trying to do a show.
No. Look, I am getting emotional, but I'm not gonna cry. No, because Van Lux was saying, "Where's the watch?"
The watch. You know,
because this is my watch.
Oh, you got the NATO strap.
Of course,
no, actually, it's a good look.
I have the original riveted oyster bracelet, but you know how finicky older bracelets can be. So I had that restored, actually, by Michael Young of Hong Kong. However, I don't wear it on the bracelet on an everyday basis, because it keeps, of course, stretching, and I don't want to send it back and forth for restoration every couple of years, because that to me sounds a little counterintuitive. And I actually do love, you know, these sorts of weathered oyster bracelets. It takes a couple of a couple of months or a few good washes to get it into that state, but it's a great look for a vintage sub, I think.
Yeah. So you started with that, okay, that kind of, but were you in the business, or because you actually have a very wide knowledge of different movies, like how did that develop?
So I basically, because it started with this very personal connection, which I am seeing some people also share in the chat as well. I think it was Chris F who said, I don't know him before, but I appreciate the sentiment. So since the journey started for me with something that's deeply emotional, I just started basically whatever money I had, whatever money I made, I put into watches. Like in my first semester in college, I just went to the library, because I thought I saw all my friends had these, you know, cushy jobs at the library where they would sit behind the desk and just do their reading and homework and get paid for it. Once every so often someone would approach it. But you know, I was an athlete then. I would still consider myself to be relatively fit. But at that time, I was in my physical prime, so to speak. So they put me to work. But I didn't mind, schlepping books from one library to another, and shelving them and working in the stacks, etc. And I spent every single penny to get that 16753, the root beer nipple dial, and it was one after the other. And I'm also, I don't know what you necessarily call that. I guess the medical term would place you probably somewhere on the spectrum. But I
No, no,
get
but
I get
that's it's
obsessed.
you're a
I get
serious
obsessed.
collector.
I get obsessed. So
No, but
I just like when I decide, not necessarily decide, but when I set my sights on a watch, I start literally researching about it. And I started doing that when, that's 2003 when I started obsessing about watches in this way. So there were barely forums, right? There was no possibility of just putting a few keywords on Google and you have all this
uh,
information. So I started sometimes taking years, looking up examples, going to places in New York on the East Coast, inspecting watches, asking incessant questions to jewelers, to vintage sellers, um, and just learning from people, learning from books, learning from other collectors, learning from jewelers, making mistakes, uh, but always taking a long time of doing research, which both means reading for me, but also means going out and seeking examples and touching them and feeling them and trying them on and looking at them under the loop, popping up the back and looking inside and whatever else. So with every purchase, it deepened my experience. It added to my knowledge, and even the mistakes I ended up uh, learning from them. And my Eric Wind, for example, who sees most of my watches and just says like, uh, please don't buy another watch before consulting me, right? Because for him it doesn't pass that test of being unpolished and untouched sometimes. Whereas
I
I
don't know.
really
I don't know.
care
You know
about.
these guys. Everybody's got
No,
opinion. They're all
no.
it's whatever.
Everybody has a style, right? So I appreciate that a lot about Eric because he doesn't take any prisoners. He doesn't make any compromises. Whereas I do because I have a limited budget always. So I buy the best example that my money can buy, the example that resonates with me as well, because when it comes to vintage pieces, sometimes patina matters, right? And not everyone likes certain kinds of patina. For example, I never understood how people can ask for premiums for a spider dial, which means the dial is cracked and can fall apart further. um, to me it's not aesthetically pleasing either, but some people sell them and sell them as if it's a good thing, and more power to them. um, I mean, I'm saying that jokingly, but there's a buyer for just about anything in this market. But I like people who have those sorts of standards because they teach me something. I learn from people who not only know theoretically, but can locate and present, in fact, a few different variations of what can be considered the best example. So, any hour I spent with people like Eric is like spending hours on live streams, reading reams of encyclopedic and artistic books on watches. So that part is the most important. It's the experience of interacting with people who sometimes disagree with you. That's when you end up learning something.
But
Otherwise, it's a circle jerk on social media for the most part. What do you learn from that? Nothing.
right. No, no. So, but so you were so but you were never in the business. You were never like, you know, because it's interesting. You have like basically, you know, you're well spoken, you're an articulate guy. You could be like a cataloger for like, you know, Phillips. I mean, because you know their catalog descriptions are basically, you know, it's yeah, it's. I mean, I think they use like a couple of the same, like, oh, everything is iconic and this, whatever. And like, you never. That was
exceedingly rare, possibly unique. This is their favorite. This is it.
Yeah, and this right, and this would look what it's yeah. I think their watch cat it's got to be like I don't know, it's not that impressive, but no, I actually listen. I have to. I gotta. Like, I think the watch. I don't. Yeah. By the way, I don't really take watches serious. I don't think this is like a serious like. You know, look, it's like machinery, whatever. It's not a big deal. Like you know, to like over make it like all precious or what. But that being said, like the whole, you know, whatever. It's very shallow. Everything is very like, you know, it's a bunch of you know, I don't know. But interesting. Okay, so basically you're purely in it for the hobby essentially. You're not in it for you're not. I mean, aside from the channel or whatever, you're not like you were never a dealer. You never like worked in the business. You're just purely your own personal interest.
I was never a dealer. I don't traffic in watches. I don't buy to sell. I do deals for other people beyond just consulting them generally. I have done that for a while, especially since I have become public on YouTube. I do that more. I've always done that for friends as well. But yeah, I'm not in the watch business in the traditional sense of the word, but again, I'm talking about the current moment. So
Right. No, interesting.
yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, it's no, because listen, I'll be candid. It's very you know, you know, I think you're one of the few articulate people who has like a knowledge in this kind of watch space. You know, online. Listen, I've met Eric. I bought a watch from Eric. Very nice guy. I mean, you know, he's a smart guy, but I think a lot of these guys, you know, it's like whatever. It's like, you know, it's you know, I would say I would put you in the top, like let's say top 5%. I put you in the top 5%.
Well, I mean, I put myself just about you know, above everyone else, but that's still very generous of you. Thank you for the compliment. I think there's nobody better as the, you know, like some version of the Q and some version of that James Bond song, right? Nobody does it better.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, listen, let's not get carried away. You know, this is whatever. But
by the way, NATO, I have to address this. NATO, exactly what is your problem with me? I literally gave that guy my time, made him thousands of dollars when he was away, you know, on a foreign trip, schmoozing with people, extending his networks. So what I did for Archie is something that you cannot even easily quantify in value. The channel would have gone down if it were left to Marcelo. So it's not something that I took advantage of. It's something that I put very hard work and a lot of time in. It's something that made him a lot of money. Whether you think you are trolling or you are being funny, I won't allow it to be characterized in that way. So fuck off with that whole idea of me taking advantage of it and somehow promoting myself. If I was interested in that, I would have gone along with their stupid shtick and met them at that very low level and fought with them with that troll speak that people of lesser intelligence and knowledge adopt in this space, and made a lot more money and expanded my channel in a way that would be incomparable to now. So spare me that bullshit. Just remain silent, which you are for the most part. So, you know, yeah, I mean,
what
of course,
I
of
actually
course,
you
it's not
I
a jab.
actually
It's not a jab at me, but it's a jab at me because, you know, NATO. It gets to a level after a certain point. You know, I don't care if the actual people are being involved who are being ungrateful, right? I'm already fed up with that, but I'm not gonna allow third parties to perpetuate this kind of narrative that I took advantage of something. I mean, what are you guys talking about? I made him more than $5,000 in super chats. Only super chats. That's not counting my time. That's not counting the fact that I kept his channel afloat and made him reach. I think at that time we crossed the threshold for 6,000 subscribers. But the channel stayed alive thanks to me and only me.
when were you
I
with
don't have
Archie?
time for lighthearted comment. That's not a lighthearted comment.
Right. I'm not familiar with you. I don't know. When were you with Archie?
I was with Archie when he went to a watch show in London a couple of years ago.
This is the thing. A couple. You know what? I was telling. I wasn't. I haven't kept track of Archie for a couple of years. I got. I was following Archie from like really 2017, 2019, and I didn't get. Then I kind of sporadically, but I didn't. I don't think I ever saw you there. I don't. So maybe I wasn't watching it. I don't know. I wasn't.
It was, you know, my involvement before and after taking over the helm of the channel when Archie was away for about 8 days, 8 to 10, because towards the end Archie appeared at least sporadically during his own live stream.
Oh, you know what? I think. Wait, you never showed up on camera though. You had like an avatar though, right? Did you have an avatar or not show up on? Because I don't think I ever
No,
saw you.
I showed up. I showed up all the
Oh.
time. Maybe I was looking more handsome and younger, but yeah,
I don't.
I
Okay, I
was.
don't. Yeah, I don't remember. Okay, whatever. I don't know. Okay, very interesting. So let's get into the watches. So basically, you're into the Rolex stuff. What watches do you have? What is in the collection?
There's you know, it's the universe is expanding, as they say. So I have Rolex was always at the core of my collection, and I think we talked about Rolexes last time I was well, the first and so far the last and only the most recent time I was on your show. We talked about the Rolexes, but we didn't talk much about the rest. So I also have Breguet Type 20, the
Oh
reference
yeah, I saw that.
38,
Yes. Yeah.
3800. So the older revival, the one that was launched in mid 90s. I have what I'm wearing now, which is Grand Date, which Archie himself had, of course, at a certain point in time as his 40th birthday present.
Oh, the GLC. Okay. Oh, you got that strap that they have. That's the their what is it called? Okay. What's the? Oh, okay.
Casa
Okay.
Faliano, yeah,
Okay.
the polo strap.
The polo. Yeah, I can't get into that Casafy. It's I don't I'm not into that story that they're selling. It's too a little too pretentious for me. This.
Yeah, you know, look,
Yeah.
some stories, some stories still resonate after you peek behind the curtain. Some don't. A lot of contemporary marketing, especially when it comes to watches, is about storytelling. Some of it is good, some of it is bad. Some of some of it is good, and we can suspend disbelief enough that we will be carried by it. Some of it is good, but we get cynical quite quickly. the I just like how it looks, right? I
Yeah, yeah.
could care less about their, the fact that they still make polo boots. Like
No,
polo as a
actually, no, the
never
cloth.
really appealed to me, even as a even as a romantic image. It's not a sport that appealed to me, but the story of the Reverso does.
Yeah. The fabric dial, I like the fabric. It's an interesting look because I saw the one that had like it was all leather with it. It was just like it's too overproduced when it's all leather. But whatever. It's so okay. So basically, you're into. It seems like you're essentially into functional, sportier type watches. You're not into really dress watches. You want stuff that's a little bit rugged and it's got like sport type stuff.
Great analysis, actually. Yeah, I mean, I like, again, aesthetically speaking, as objects in this world, as we were saying about certain Cartier designs, I appreciate them. I have a couple of pieces like that can qualify for that dress watch category, but it's really not my favorite. I feel I'm much more interested in pieces, like you implied, that can straddle the two worlds, not in
A
the
little
way
more
that
manly, so
guys.
you
Yeah,
like stuff that's a little more manly. You're like you want the Brando thing going. You want the Marlon Brando, Steve McQueen thing. You want stuff that's it's stainless steel. It's not gold. It's like it's not pretentious. It's you're not a Patek guy basically. You're not a Cartier guy.
I like complicated Patek, but a lot of times, like most historically speaking, by the way, I'm not
Yeah, but
just
okay,
talking
so
about
your
current
Patek,
offerings, but let me
your
finish my
version of
sentence.
no, I'm
The
going to tell you. I'm going to finish it for you. Your version of Patek is you
No,
want the big chronograph.
don't
You want to have
finish
a
it.
big chronograph.
Okay, don't finish it for me, please. I don't like time-only Pateks for the most part. Historically speaking, not only the current Calatrava offerings. I like the 3970, for example. Right, I would kill to own something like that. But yeah, I'm not a dress watch guy, really. I like to think of myself that way, but I might aspire to be one that day, one day, but not currently, at least.
Right, right. No, listen. So you listen. I could have told you exactly. Listen. I'm very good at reading people, so I could have told you exactly what you're into. You want that complicated chronograph. That's it. You don't want to have anything that's like a perpetual. You want to have chronograph. You want to have a lot of stuff. It's got that. It's got like a manly look to it.
Yeah. I mean, what do you what do you expect?
I don't know. Listen, everybody's got listen. Listen. Everybody's got different tastes. Everybody's got different things they look for in watches. So I'm always curious. Like, what is like I've only seen you with two watches. So I don't know what else. But now that I understand the sort of the what is it? How do I explain there's a theme. There's a body of work. There's a theme. There's a theme to the collection. So I understand the collection. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, of course, of
Okay,
course.
got it. Got it. Okay.
No, that's the thing. Again, I'm not. I think we talked about this last time you were a guest on my show. You asked me about my watch collecting philosophy, and I said that feels very pretentious to say about something as trivial as collecting watches, and I still stand by that for the most part. On the other hand, I do take it seriously, within my own means and within my own world, and I think very carefully about every single watch that I buy and that I bring into my collection. That doesn't necessarily mean there's like a single thread and like one complication or one particular type of the watch that's um, the that characterizes the entire collection, but your reading, your analysis of it are absolutely on the nose. I think there is something that brings them all together. And no surprise, because there is someone who thoughtfully put them together as pieces that are valuable to him in an emotional sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I mean, the stuff you have has got that. Also, it's got a lot of them have some sort of like backstory about military or sport. You got the what do you call it? The reverso. Yeah, it's the what do you call it? The brag. Yeah, I get the concept. I get the concept. So you're not buying an Ellipse anytime soon, basically.
Actually, the ellipse might be my only favorite time only Patek.
You never go near an Ellipse. I guarantee you'll never ever go near an Ellipse. I don't believe that. That's like
Those blue gold dials are amazing,
no,
man. I mean,
that's not
I
for you.
love
That's not for you. It's
I love
not.
it.
That's too feminine for you. That's not for you. Oh, we got
Well,
a super
you are
check.
tempted.
Jamie Opulence.
You're
Jamie
tempted.
Opulence. He's got the 5396R. It's
Yeah,
probably the
I
one
love
that
Jamie. It's been a while, Jamie. £5.99 sterling. Hey,
Oh, it's not
lords,
a lot.
best
That's real
regards
money.
to you.
That's about $8. That's $8.
That is real money.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, listen, Brando, I got to hop. I have a early casting couch call tomorrow. I
Beautiful.
got
Beautiful.
shemales. We got discussions of shemales, Epstein, all that stuff. So, all right. Anyway, good joining you. Good to learn about the collection philosophy, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you, Colonel. Thanks for dropping by. It's great. Oh, that was nice. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for jumping on the board. It seems that initially we got our lines crossed a little bit because he had told me 8:30. Because I had given him some times in my time zone, I assumed that it was my time zone. I don't think I've ever opened a live stream or jumped on a live stream around 5:30 my time, so that was a lost cause anyways, but I'm sure they had a lot of fun at the Watch Reporter, which is his channel, so do check it out. Seb Nelly, member for 2 months. Amazing. YB Colonel turned me off Alangonzune. Do Germans produce them, or should I just get into S&M? This must be some sort of inside joke, but as I always do, I will just take it seriously and answer it in the most serious way possible. Alangonzune obviously has a certain heritage, being a German brand. A lot of German industrial production that we know today, that we might admire, aspire to, and use in our own lives during wartime, was used for most callous, pernicious, and genocidal purposes. Watches were not immune to them, nor were Swiss watches. However, Alangonzune, and this is the funny thing about Lange, right? When people want to dismiss it, they grasp at every possible stick they can find to beat Lange. So when they want to basically take it down a peg, take it down a notch, and say it's not a high horology brand because it's just a Phoenix brand, then we only consider their history that belongs to the revival, the wake of the German reunification, and the introduction of the original 4 models in 1994. Right? I've talked a lot about this on this channel, but let me just paint that scene, since I do actually have that picture at hand from my recent Lange video, which was about the 3 watches that you can buy to start your Lange collection. And they are all, by the way, quite great deals. So I will drop a link to that video too. So when people want to dismiss The haute horlogerie credentials of Lange, we talk about it as a brand that was just born in the 90s. But when that's not enough, when people have to come to terms with the fact that these are actually great watches, very well made, with a unique haptic experience, with a certain kind of wrist feel, with the kind of, yes, mechanical fetishism that they tickle through that exhibition case back. Then we come up with excuses about, like, oh, earlier in the century, they did this, they did that, they collaborated with this, they made pilot watches for that. Look, I mean, Hitler had, I believe, and this watch was sold on public auction recently, Hitler had himself a gold reverso. So are we going to admonish today's Gégé Lecoutre, or are we going to refuse to own or wear reversos because some despicable son of a bitch actually also wore one? I'm not sure if that's the way you want to go about it, because very little of Swiss legacy brands would remain if you want to look at watches like that. Just about every single one would be tarnished by this legacy of Nazism and fascism. Even pocket watches from the period, even Seiko watches from the period. I mean, the list is endless. We just can't do that. So for me, Lange is important, and it's not a brand that you should easily discount, because it actually tells a very good story when you peek behind the curtain about the revival of watchmaking at a high level in the post-quartz era. It's a brand that was revived under Günther Blümlein's leadership, with a lot of technical expertise transferred from Gégé Lecoutre. The entire generation, the entire first generation, except for the Tourbillon, which was made in Renault et Papy, actually bore the signs or were built on the gear trains borrowed from Gégé Lecoutre. The first core of watchmakers were trained at the IWC manufacturer in Schaffhausen. And the revival of Lange not only heralded, but also substantiated and lived up to the promise of building a high horology brand in a place where people wouldn't expect it. Because let's be honest, if we are going to talk about the recent history, pre-94 history of Lange, it's actually making miserably cheap tool watches under the East German system. So to build the kind of manufacture, the kind of house that they built in Glashütte, which ignited, in fact, the whole constellation of brands, is something that's immeasurably important. And I think it's a great inspiration for anyone who looks at the business and manufacturing side of the horological world. Here's my 3 Lange watches video, by the way. I'm dropping the link. Feel free to watch it on your own time, and feel free to also drop a like and leave a comment. Thank you, Lemon Curly Hair, $10. Brando and Colonel, excellent combo. Yes, I loved it as well. Hope to see the professor soon. Me too, but he has been very busy these days. Believe me, I mean, incredibly busy. And again, I'm not at liberty to share what's going on. So, you know, I wish to have more of him. I hope I can have more of him on this channel. And in terms of personal contacts, but he's preoccupied. Can I share your summary of Higgy and much of the division? Your summary was very well put. In terms of clipping, you mean? By all means, Curly. I mean, you can do whatever you want, and I appreciate that you're asking for it. But YouTube is, you know, without elevating it too much, without ennobling it too much, it's public sphere, right? You know, so as long as things are presented in the right context, there's no problem of people borrowing, sharing, clipping. I think that's great. Probably that last sentence I said will be the end of you know, like famous final words, right? That's how to put it. You know, it's fine, you can share anything, and people start doing all sorts of montages that will be that'll be great. Fry says Stova was also a reboot during the 90s and 2000s and bought many times over. Great watches, but they don't have a lot of tie to the original company. Fries, that's a great point, and that's sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Again, people use this kind of double standard all the time, right? IWC and even Breitling to a certain extent have generic movements that they rebrand, and in some cases present without full transparency as if it were purely a work of their own manufacture at the point of conception and production. And so many other big brands do this too. But people would still obsess about how Habring 2, even though the watch itself is completely different, uses a Valjoux 7750 architecture, right? It doesn't matter whether it became a column wheel, hand wound. It doesn't matter if it is actually engineered and finished and ultimately functionalized, complicated in a different fashion. If people want to beat Habring 2 with that stick, they will do it. And the same people might elevate Naoya Hida, those beautiful Japanese dress watches that have hand-graved dials and a lot of very strong aesthetic charge in terms of if you like a dress watch. But yeah, Naoya Hida uses Valjoux 7750 as a base in a lot of their dress watches. So what? Right? What do they do with the base that they use? What they put together imaginatively, aesthetically, and ultimately also technically, I think matters to me much more, matters infinitely more than what kind of base movements they use. Because we can look for different things in different watches, right? Some watches would appeal to you because of their strong aesthetic charm that borrows heavily from previous designs, presenting them hopefully with a unique touch in an original way. Other watches will perhaps stun you by their mechanical complexity and the kind of handwork that goes into them. Others might impress you because they can easily become your go anywhere, do anything watch that you don't want to take off your wrist, and you don't need to take off your wrist because you can jump into the pool. You don't have to care about the downpour of rain. You don't have to take it off while you're washing dishes, making pasta. You don't have to take it off in the gym. You don't have to take it off at the office. Some watches you like for that. Anyways, with my small rant over, I think Longa is a very compelling brand. Yes, as with any other brands, there are certain stereotypes when it comes to their collectors, and we will go back to those beautiful Facebook memes because King Flum had a whole other set of 10 in terms of stereotypes. So there is a sense in which you can stereotype people who buy certain kinds of watches, who are who find appeal in certain brands, who aspire towards certain brands. But I think that takes us only so far. It's much more important to leave the time to yourself to develop your own taste. And I know most of it is just joking around. But there are certain things that you joke about, other things that you don't. The reason I resist that is because there are real anti-Semites in this community. There are people who are genuinely anti-Semitic and actually hate Jews in this community. The so-called Clueless Watch channel and Ocean are a great example of that. But there are so many others. So I'm not going to have people, just lump everyone together. Everyone is a Nazi and this and that, where you have people that we actually need to oppose, where we have people who actually have bad intentions, who are actually racist. I mean, that's a serious problem. Higgins is just an unlikable guy. He's not a racist. He's certainly not the N-word, right? But he works on the premise of bad faith. He likes talking behind people's back. He wants to think of himself, fancies himself a mastermind, so tries to organize things behind the scenes. He likes feeling all-powerful. He likes having his ego stroked. But then again, we're all guilty of that at some level. I just can't find anything to like about this guy. But I'm not just going to call him names because of that. That's it. There you go. It is a road. Yeah, I love this mic. Best investment I made for the channel. Yes, sir. Fry says the great historical information. Alan und Söhne were bought by a group of IWC and JLC in the 90s before current groups. It was called LMH, not to be confused with LVMH, Les Manufactures Horlogères. And it was literally the horological division of Mannesmann, which is like a big German conglomerate. But they actually had a separate company called LMH, or Les Manufactures Horlogères, that held IWC, JLC, and Lange. 40% of JLC before 2000, before Richemont bought it, was still owned by AP. As you know, once you go back 10, 15, 20 years, all across the board, especially when it comes to time and date and ultra thin movements. A good chunk of AP movements were built on Jaeger-LeCoultre ébauche blanks. So they needed that. They went another way, even though the Jumbo continued to be powered by the JLC 920 base, what AP calls caliber 2121 until last year, until 2022. And in fact, it was part of their agreement with Richemont when they were selling their 40% stake of JLC at the turn of the century, that they keep the rights to produce caliber 2121 as it is. That was part of their condition for that sale. Loose Tooth says, I'm strangely interested in IWC 41 millimeter blue and Mojave chronos. Oh my God, I'm dressed for it too. You know, I would, Mojave IWC chrono would go great with this outfit for sure. I do love what IWC does with their ceratanium cases, right? Their particular alloy of ceramic and titanium, which they also offer in these various colors. I think the blue is a little too much. The black is, of course, as always, murdered out classic with just a little dash of red there on the second sand. That's beautiful. But my favorite has to be the Mojave Desert. It's kind of the khaki colored version, and some of you might know my favorite Instagram account of all time is, of course, at Old Jewish Men, OJM, and they have published their in and out lists for 2024, and wearing all different shades of khaki is, of course, absolutely in. Where right, recommending books you haven't read is in, talking over people is in. So I welcome the Colonel as an honorary old Jewish man. Gas X, it's a must. Velcro shoes, I'm trying to get into them. I'm not there yet. Backing out of the driveway without looking all the time. Crop dusting at parties. Pulling nose hairs in public. Bialys with butter. If you don't know what a bialy is, you got to check it out. They're amazing. Openly yawning when other people speak. Do it all the time. Shouting at the TV. I do it at YouTube. And several shades of the color khaki worn together. So I absolutely need, I desperately need an IWC Pilots 41 Mojave Desert with my current outfit, so I can properly become what I already am. Yeah, Jamie, sometimes it's hard to engineer and arrange this, by the way. I don't do it that low. I don't pull it all the way Man, if I knew I would get super chats, I would have turned off the mic earlier. Should I turn it off again? Will you send another super chat, Loose Tooth? It wasn't, by the way, AD effing called, but Jamie who jinxed it, because he was complimenting on the volume levels and what. Man, that was a great rant, though. You know, you have to admit, like, that's great performance, and you are missing the good parts. What was the last thing you guys heard? Tell me that. See, I didn't even have to turn it off. What was the last thing you guys heard? What, you train dogs? I've been muted for now. So what, Pavel, tell me, where did it cut off? What was the last thing you heard about Higgins? Frank and Honest says, to be honest, I imagined that YB was speaking with Ross Rachel Brady's voice the whole 5 minutes he was. I love that guy, by the way. I've never heard his voice, to be honest, but I like him. I like him a lot. The whole character is just charming. That's amazing. So you missed the whole thing. I was actually talking about Higgins the whole time, but I just can't be bothered to go through it again. So let's go back to those watch memes. Because I really loved it, and this is, by the way, again, one of my favorites watch meme accounts. He also happens to have a Substack, or whatever it is that people call him. So he has like weekly newsletters, and he is kind of he's kind of puts to ask for a subscription for that. I subscribe to the free version, which you get like after, like, with a week delay or something. But sometimes he has decent commentary as well. But I'm here for the memes first and foremost. We looked through the first 10. This is for Omega, as you can imagine. I think he found them from Reddit originally. And obviously, part of the shtick is this is what the AI spit out, right? I asked AI to show a typical watch brand enjoyer. So this is for Omega. This lovely gentleman loves wearing Cartier, and as you can see, there's some misshapen monstrosity on his wrist there. On their wrist, I should say. Rolex is set up as if it were a scene from a popular porn genre. I suspect the guy who prepared this wears a tag, because this is supposed to be Tag Heuer. It's almost going to make me buy a tag. Tudor. Oh, yeah. AD effing Colt says, you were just starting to talk about that IWC Mojave shitter that Loose Tooth was. I like it. I like it. Not for 11,000, but I actually love that watch. I was saying that it goes with my outfit. You know, wearing all these different shades of khaki, which is of course the thing to do in year 2024. This is Tudor, by the way. AP. I think all the gold chains and the painted on beard is chef's kiss of a touch, so to speak. Oops, that wasn't. Seiko is perhaps true, but also kind of depressing. Like I love my Seikos, but I completely get what this picture says. It resonates. Ball, because it's supposed to be the railroad watch. A little bit too on the nose, but I still like it. Hublot, everyone is laughing at the guy who wears Hublot. And IWC, which again seems a little self-congratulatory. I think there's something at work there behind the scenes. I can't quite tell. It's still funny. Okay, this is the next set of 10. And I will be right back. I actually need to take a quick break, but please hit the like button and keep the super chats coming. I need it. I desperately need it. All right, I think we are back. You can hear me, I hope. And you can even see me, perhaps. Ooh. Yeah, I have this sexy custom layout. So let's try that. Because I'm just desperate to show my face. So this is the second set. I asked AI to show a typical watch brand enjoyer. This is Patek Philippe. I think it fits. I think it fits. A lot of people who wear Patek really expect people to worship at their feet. So this looks very appropriate, very solemn. Absolutely on the nose. Number 2 is Casio. Man. Well, when I was that age, it was the bullies who who wore Casios. So to this day, I cannot suffer the sight of them. And I also, this is my biggest pet peeve as well, the way that the celebrities in the watch world literally print money by selling you Casio G-Shock shitters when they, buy with like high horology watches with that money, or supercars or something like that. I feel like, that is really one of the most cynical things that horological celebrities do these days. Not, not only, making money is fine, but especially because this whole G-Shock shtick is laced with this idea that it's democratic and it's accessible and it's something that provides joy for, a great variety of people. Look, even the rock star wears it, the high priest of horology wears it, and here is this special version that's touched by their hand. You can be part of the fun as well, and that's exactly not how it works, right? When you see these people in an unguarded moment, trust that they are not wearing a G-Shock, right? So if you like G-Shocks, that's fine, but please don't fool yourself for a moment to think that it is actually a cool watch that celebrities wear because they actually like it. Just don't trick yourself like that. It's pretty sad. Number 3 is Grand Seiko. That's not nice. They did them dirty. I mean, people who like uh, Zaratsu polishing belong to a very special breed, but not like that. That's not nice. That's not cool. But my rule remains. The rule of the channel stays in place. What I think about Grand Seiko is that I would never pay more than $1,000 for a Seiko. It is what it is. They should come up with a whole rebrand for the brand. I know there are already diehard fans. I know that there are already so many collectors globally who are just as obsessed with Grand Seiko the way others are obsessed with Rolex, Jaeger LeCoultre, Arangonzone, and whatever else. But honestly, there's a reason. There's a reason that there are brands like Lexus. There's a reason why they don't go by the name of their mothership. There's a reason. It was just a bad idea all around to continue using the Grand Seiko name when they started launching the brand globally not more than a decade ago. It wasn't something that was fated to be this way, and it still doesn't have to be that way either. They can cut their losses and still do something about it. Because trust me, again, as human beings in general, but as watch collectors especially, we are not rational beings. We have all sorts of hang-ups, prejudices, misplaced beliefs, and just simply rehearsed ideas that we received sometimes from elsewhere that we don't interrogate, and even when we interrogate, sometimes can't get rid of. And I feel a lot of people are simply kept apart from Grand Seiko simply because it's called Seiko. Because Seiko is great for what it is, but it's just not a good brand for a luxury watch at a higher level. That brand name will never speak to its potential if it remains to be called Seiko. And the funny thing is, they realize that because, as you know, at a certain point in time, I don't remember the exact cutoff year, but they used to be double branded. They would have both the Seiko signature and the Grand Seiko signature, as well as the Grand Seiko logo on the dial, every single Grand Seiko watch. And they moved away from that practice because they said it was messing up the perception of the brands. Yeah, no shit. It's called a Seiko. And, you know, Seiko is a watch that we wear as beaters, that we love, but for a particular purpose. So it's, unfortunately, it's going to be a fail. This is Lako, Stova, and Breitling. No comment, I guess, because this is basically lobbing the accusation that our dear friend, the Colonel, sent Alan Gonzonez's way. But funny enough, Prize Monster had brought up Stova in the same context as well. So you never know. This is the Apple Watch. I don't know. I don't know what to say about the Apple Watch. I think, you know, I was actually opining about this in another channel at the Watch Hangout, to be specific. I think the connection of the Apple Watch to the world of mechanical watches, this point in time, is often exaggerated in one way or another. You know, it's either understood as this hopeful development that we can look at positively because people are getting used to wearing something on their wrist again. I think that may have been the case at the inception of smartwatches and at the beginning of their hype. I think nowadays that doesn't mean much because I don't think people perceive these pieces of wearable technology in the same way they perceive a wristwatch and a mechanical wristwatch specifically. I think the best case of it is just people wearing an Apple Watch on one wrist and a respectable mechanical wristwatch on the other. It happens every day. So I just think that the mechanical watches are going to remain with us in some shape or form, right? Their current popularity, I think, might be episodic, beyond the fact that the hype will eventually run out, beyond the fact that the market will eventually return to its pre-pandemic levels. I think, you know, watches might once again recede from kind of the mainstream hobby and collecting sphere. But the charm of a mechanical watch, which paradoxically really resides in the fact that it is an obsolete object, obsolete mechanism, where it tells, to kind of borrow, adopt and adapt a phrase from Rolex, that tells more than time. think of the kind of complications that a smartwatch has, or even a quartz watch has, that doesn't impress us, right? Why? Because it's so much easier to do all those things using chips. When it is actually an artisanal craft, certain techniques that address specific problems in making a function work and perfecting it over the ages, and the way that makes some of those technologies, which were the size of clocks at the beginning, into something wearable in the wrist, on the wrist, with horological miniaturization. Some people are going to be attracted to that always, and thanks to those people, mechanical watches will survive. I don't think we were ever competing with smartwatches. I don't think we will ever compete with smartwatches. Um, I don't think it's that kind of sphere, if it ever was. The Tissot PRX. No comment. A lot of people I really love the PRX. I think it's a decent watch for the money. I just don't dabble in that category anymore. And never really could convince myself to get something like that if it's not a Seiko, right? To turn something over that I said. I mean, I was very happy, and I still am, with my Merci watch, the Archie watch, which is like a dress watch that's modeled after Bauhaus style Calatrava. That's relatively affordable, because I wanted something that's a little more pared down and dressy, rather than sporty, just to go with my Seikos more than anything, as a counterweight, as a counterpoint to what they offer. Um, but yeah, it's not a category that I want to spend too much money or time on. And to me, that's a horror story also, that faces a lot of collectors, and not only for the Tissot PRX, but I feel like people sometimes impulsively go into this mode where they start buying this and that other thing, uh, and we all work with limited budgets, right? Rather than that one watch that they could buy if they just held up a little longer. I feel like a lot of money is spent in reaching what we call a grail. And especially in this current market, where not everything retains value, and watches that don't retain value don't retain much value anymore at all. Uh, you cannot flip them anymore. You will end up bleeding all sorts of cash if you end up getting a Tissot here, a Seiko there, a Timex over here, a G-Shock there, um, a Hamilton, and this and that, when what you want is, say, really a Rolex Submariner. Just get that, right? You don't need the journey if that's the journey. Um, if it is something that you are doing consciously, again, scrutinizing your own thought process, thinking a little bit harder about your own purchasing habits. If you are genuinely learning something from buying and selling watches at that level, even if you lose a little bit of money here and there. I get it. It's not for me to judge. We all start somewhere. And I think, sometimes people start like that. And in fact, by flipping, they reach the level they want. That's their way, if not the only way, to get to their actual grail. And I do understand that, and I do appreciate that. But don't follow trends if at all possible, but don't turn away from trends just because they're trendy either, right? Don't dabble in too much cognitive dissonance. If you know, you know. This is Panerai. It's yeah, it works. I mean, it's it was all these um, guys who were high on the pump, who introduced us, who gave this gift to the mainstream. So this checks out entirely. The only thing that I would take issue with is the woman's breasts actually look real. I mean, I know it's an AI generated image, supposedly, um, but those look quite perky and attractive, and not plastic at all. I would think that the guy who wears Panerai would most certainly have a girl with fake tits. 100%. But anyway, that's just me. Moving on. Uh, this is supposed to be Hamilton and Marathon. That's it. I think this is the one that's most on the nose. Fries, look at the new Tissot. Yeah, I saw this. I'll bring this up after we are done with the memes. I'll bring this up. Yeah, I just put it in the background. In the meantime, please hit the like button. And if you have any questions, any requests, or if you simply want to show your appreciation for the show today, if you're learning something from it, in either case, feel free to send in a super chat. So we're looking at some of the memes that King Flum posted on his Instagram earlier. Basically, stereotypical images generated by AI depicting collectors who tend towards certain watches. And this burly gentleman is supposed to be an average Hamilton / Marathon owner. And fair enough. King Flum actually admits this is his take. So this is an image he manipulated, actually. So it doesn't belong to the original set. And so was the Laco Stova, by the way, which was just mean. But I get it. This is the penultimate one, Alan Gonzone, owner that posts his watch on social media. And this is the Alan Gonzone owner who has no clue what social media is. This is the strongest one. This is the best one. I'm sure Günther Blümlein is laughing at that one from somewhere up there. This is great. Okay, Tissot had a new chronograph release, the PR 516, hand wound and quartz. But this is not it. The new one is built on the Valjoux base, no? As my friend Prize Monster was saying, yes, right here, because the older kind was on hybrid movements, the ones they call mecha quartz, right, where the timekeeping is left to the quartz base of the movement, whereas the chronograph is handled mechanically. This is the new Tissot PR 516. And it was, I think it was introduced recently, no? I haven't read up on it yet, Fries. So you have to help me out here a little bit. It's built on the base of hand-wound Valjoux movements. A05291, 68-hour power reserve, which at 4 hertz sounds pretty good. Because usually watches at that price point a lot of times sacrifice the frequency, sacrifice a little bit on beat rates by tuning that down, getting higher mileage from the same barrel, basically. But I like the aesthetics of this piece, for sure. But again, we are moving into that strange territory here, right? You know, where it's almost, almost something you can save for something halfway decent. Frank and Honest says these memes are quite accurate, except for severely downplaying the ostentatiousness and gaudiness of the AP wearer. Maybe. Look, I mean, that they were funny. For me, they were funny. Fry says, and this is a point that I didn't consider, Seiko lineup is matching with the Japanese hierarchy. Seiko is salaryman, King Seiko mid-management, Grand Seiko top management, Credo CEO. I missed that one. But yeah, I like the aesthetics of this. What is the bezel made out of? Hmm. I mean, the dimensions seem okay, as it's usually done. Even though it's vintage revival, it's still 41 millimeters. And I understand, that's the order of the day, right? Even Breguet gave up on preserving the historical dimensions of the piece, more or less, which is something that they kept largely in the 90s, even though it was a much more generic movement, self-winding and a thicker watch at the end of the day. Fry says, this looks like an honest chrono you can wear on a daily basis. That's it. But you're right. Do not buy many of these at this price range. And again, that's just my personal experience. I actually love the aesthetics of this. I think maybe the bezel is sapphire as well. Is that possible? What kind of bezel is this? Yeah, glass box style sapphire crystal. Um, na- hmm. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. Honestly, I like the syringe or candlestick minute hand. I like the orange and red accents, and even that, initial 5 minutes marking in blue, which is kind of a vintage inspired touch, right? Where you would have actually a very specific graduation at the beginning of the minute totalizer, which apparently had a particular utility for keeping the track of time while you were placing international calls, as the story goes. Um, I like the fact that it's a multimeter scale on the bezel and done in a pretty ingenious way, and an aesthetically pleasing way at that, right? You have the pulsometer graduated for 15 pulsations, which is the best, right? Start, count to 15, stop, and that's roughly your heart rate. There's a tachymeter, of course, that speaks to kind of the motorsports imagery or imaginary that always somehow props up these kinds of chronograph pieces. And the price point for what it offers is not too bad. Unless you are going to dabble in like obscure vintage brands, there's not much you can get in the way of a hand wound chronograph at this price point. So for Tissot to even venture there and uh, have an offering that caters to that also is inspired by pieces that they have made historically. And you can see here the PR 516s that Tissot has made historically. As you can see, they were rendered or they were executed in more of a tonneau shaped case, which some love, some hate. but certainly they look pretty dated, right, in a certain way. Here they have gone with something a little more elongated, even though it still has that feel of a tonneau. But tonneau here, in the case that the Rolex Oyster case, is roughly a tonneau shape as well, not perfectly round either. I like this as a piece of design, especially. I kind of love it. Could the logo be any larger? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I also, I get it. I also get why they put the year there as well. But also I don't, right? Don't. That's the weakest part of the watch too. I think the fonts they used for that signature and the year, somewhat off-putting. I don't know why. I think what AD pointed out is just fine. I mean, the fact that it's too large to begin with is the worst part of that problem. Fries makes a great point here. Vintage chronos are a minefield when it comes to servicing costs, especially when it comes to spare parts. I would rather recommend that Tissot to a new enthusiast on a budget. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, most people, Fries, don't directly go into vintage watches at this point in time. Which is a blessing and a curse. And it comes with the territory of um, this mainstream exposure and accessibility to collecting watches. Um, Now people are not socialized into it, through their father's watch or collection, or in the jewelry district, um, or even watch boutiques. Nowadays, people are um, really first exposed and truly exposed to mechanical watches within the flex culture of social media. So it's much more rare that people start with developing an interest in vintage chronographs. That's a little bit too niche for the modern collector. I'm not saying exceptions don't exist, but I think most people develop that taste. Most people cultivate something like that taste um, a few years into their collecting journey. Um, but even then, you're right. Even then, I think people need to take more time. People need to educate themselves a little more before they venture into collecting vintage chronographs, because it's like on a smaller scale. It's like owning a vintage car. It comes with all sorts of hidden costs, and sometimes it can become, if you don't appreciate that sort of involvement, um, both a money sink and even a time sink, right? You sometimes you just want to buy a watch and enjoy it in an uninterrupted, unadulterated way, at least for a few years before you start dropping it off somewhere, sending it away, and whatever else, right? You just want to wear the damn thing and go through life with it, make memories with it. And sometimes vintage chronographs don't allow you to do that. You usually end up building an entire fleet so you can rotate through them, so you can enjoy one fully while the other one is in service. Some maybe you wouldn't even dare to wear outside of an air-conditioned space. Would the moisture make its way in? What if it rains? you know and like you said, um, some parts are hard to find. Not everyone can machine those parts. um, for extinct brands, of course, there are no parts accounts where you can just order something, so those repairs can take even longer, as your expert watchmaker is trying to improvise and invent solutions to a problem that could have been otherwise solved, um, you know, with the snap of a finger when it comes to a modern watch, a contemporary watch. So you're right. So if for someone like that, hand wound chronograph is interesting, is exciting, that's not a bad option. It's like, I know the design is very different, but when I look at the architecture of the movement and the way it's finished, and don't take me wrong, I think Habring is a few notches above, even in terms of finishing, as utilitarian as finishing is when it comes to Habring. But I kind of get a vibe of quote unquote poor man's Habring, or like budget Habring, from this particular Tissot release from the back. And I am an ass man, so that's where I start my inspections. I mean, just to show you what I mean, again, in terms of vibe, not necessarily quality, and we are talking about a budget version at any rate. But there we are. Ah, what the hell? Yeah. So for someone who is interested technically in, hand wound movements, chronographs, um, someone who is developing that sort of movement fetish that the colonel was talking about, if money is no object, I would definitely send them, to Habling too, rather than spending any time or money with Tissot. If, however, you want to maybe play around with something, um, test out really in a safe way whether you can actually make do, whether you can actually live with an hand wound chronograph in year 2024. This doesn't look so bad as a piece to experiment with, as a piece to play around, as a piece to also own and wear on a daily basis. I mean, this can be a good one watch, one and done for someone who is looking for something relatively generic, name brand, affordable. It's not bad at all. Right. I could go back to the I could go back to the in Eichen auction, but I think we made the point already, in the sense that they had 50 lots and 39 of them didn't sell, and that really tells you everything you need to know about the market at present time, because these are pieces that look pretty clean, that are mostly contemporary, still in the catalog, but the reserves were higher than the MSRP. The watches were sold with a certain premium, which put them a couple of notches above retail pricing, and in certain instances, market rates. And people are just fed up with that. People are not doing that. In this age of austerity, people are not really so readily going for contemporary production Rolex at a premium. People are just not willing to pay premium for otherwise pedestrian, if also desirable, Rolex watches, if they're actually retail. I mean, the John Mayer one, for example, went all the way up to 84,200. What kind of delusion led them to have a reserve that was higher than that? This watch is not worth all that. I think the fact that beyond the hype, I think the fact that um, a lot of authorized dealers would not allocate these watches to the average collector, but would rather sell them to their preferred gray market interface, let's put it like that, gave people the mistaken impression that these are extremely rare or something. Um, this is a mass-produced watch. And I'm not even getting into the whole sticky dimension where you also have a lot of these floating around with aftermarket dials. OEM for the most part, but you have a lot of so-called John Mayers that were not born with the green dial, that have the dial swapped. So I don't know. I think this thing is a brick. It's going to. I mean, if it has not already crashed, it's going to crash pretty hard quite soon. I really feel. I mean, um, I share my friend Aussie Expat's opinion on this. I feel that the the current valuation of most precious metal Rolex pieces is just something unsustainable. It can't go on like that forever. Um, as always, the Daytona might prove some sort of exception. After all, we are talking about the first modern hype watch. Anything is possible when it comes to that. And there are always going to be, I think, at this point in time, unless we have really some catastrophic, devastating situation on a geopolitical level, I think there will always be a handful of hype models that will be carried on by mainstream culture. And I know those watches will always be disproportionately desired and valued. But I think on another scale, it's the only way is down for most of the market, for most brands, and even for most Rolex. Right, the new Paul Newman, so to speak, that didn't sell either. The maximum bid was 53,500. I mean, what was the reserve? Was it set at the buy it now price? No, was it set as at 60,000? Who would pay 60,000 for something like this? I don't know. Not anymore. Not anymore. I think it's that practice of paying above list for Rolex is not something that will last much longer. I think slowly but surely, a lot of authorized dealers will remove those exhibition only tags from their displays, from the watch cases, because those watches, guys, are for sale. They're exhibition only to thee, but not to the VIP. So it's always been that metric. This one went all the way into six figures. It's the old one, right? Yeah, 116506 with the Get diamonds. I think that's I always loved this one. That didn't sell, even though the maximum bid was 102,400. Last 10 minutes, guys. I think I'm going to depart after that. This is the 116759 SA or SA, sapphires and diamonds, white gold GMT Master 2 with 24-hour bezel that sets half in diamonds and half in sapphires, using alternating stones for the 5 minutes, or rather for the hour intervals. The lugs and the crown guards are also encrusted in diamonds. Reserve not met, again, even though the bidding ventured into six-figure territory. Mm. This was the small block. I really feel like Rolex should bring this style back, and I'm talking about the fixed end link bracelets, or sorry, fixed end link leather strap style to the Daytona that was all the rage before Oyster Flex. And I know, you know, I see what they're doing with Oyster Flex. I know this has a little bit of a throwback feel, but I still feel there's place for this too in the Rolex catalog. But anyway, Tudor is coming back with the big block. However, as you guys know, there was pièce unique presented for the Only Watch 2023 auction, an event that was canceled. But that piece had a manufacturer caliber that was at the prototype level, and that will replace the movements they use in common, the B01 with Breitling. Yeah, this Tudor small block didn't sell either. The fixed price was $8,000. The maximum bid, $4,350, didn't come anywhere near that. The Tiger small block didn't sell. The maximum bid, again, barely surpassing 5,000, whereas the buy it now price was set at 9K plus. Oyster Perpetual Tiffany 41 didn't sell either. And again, it doesn't really help their case that they don't list, they don't talk about, they don't present any documents, tags, you know, any of the presentation material, box, papers. Who knows what this is, right? We talked about this many times on the channel, right? These are dime a dozen on the secondary markets with swap dials. What you need is an entire set that comes also with the white tag that corresponds to the dial with which this watch was born. Otherwise, these pieces are worth nothing unless you're obsessed with that particular dial color, in which case you should just go for black or silver and chase down an aftermarket dial to swap it out. It's really as easy and straightforward as that. Fry says investors dreaming and getting burned right here. You know, I don't want anyone to suffer crash and burn and lose significant amounts of money because they wanted to invest in watches. Like no one wants to see that. But there has been a certain breed of speculators and manipulators that gained a lot of clout, gained a lot of currency, and are still to this day accorded so much authority as if they have any actual knowledge or expertise on anything related to watches. That's quite sad, right? I have all the sympathy, I have all the time for people who were actually burned by these kinds of crooks, because they thought all of this was good investment. On the other hand, the people who basically came up with the whole scheme and continued to inflate that bubble seem to have come out unscathed from the whole process, and they're just doing fine at the other end. This is one piece that sold, and I think it's brilliant. This is the kind of Daytona I was talking about earlier. Even though I'm not necessarily enamored with these smaller Arabic numerals, I love the so-called racing dials, right, which have the oversized Arabic numerals that are radially arrayed. But this is a beautiful white gold Daytona. I think it looks astonishing on that cognac brown croc strap with contrast stitching. Sporty in all the right ways, but also quite elegant. This is the 6 digits, so 116519. And I think it's one of the most elegant versions of the Daytona. The proportions are great. I actually kind of like, if not necessarily prefer, perhaps even prefer the fact that this is on a leather strap, unpolished, with the remnants of the caseback sticker still somehow intact. Yeah, I'd much rather get something like this than anything post 116500 LN. I'm just not captivated by the more recent generations and the ceramic bezels, etc. It just doesn't speak to me in the same way. You guys know, for me, the Zenith Daytona, the 5-digit, is truly the sweet spot when it comes to the Daytona. I just love the perfect balance of those dials. For me, 5-digit Rolex speaks to me because I feel like those years were really kind of the extra time for that heritage of making certain kinds of tool watches and instruments, even though Rolex's transformation into a luxury brand was almost complete already in the late 80s. But still, there's something for me that is very captivating about 4 and 5-digit Rolex. But when it comes to the Daytona, the 5-digit, the 16520, in all its variants, still presents pretty good value. But that's also the case with these precious metal pieces that are presented on leather straps. We were talking about the appeal of bracelet watches just to the general crowd, most enthusiasts. So when you're looking for deals, if you can live with it, or perhaps like me, you even prefer it, these kinds of variants are really where the good deals are, right? Because it doesn't have a bracelet, it will never appeal to a certain kind of collector. And that's why this kind of piece actually sold. Lot 25 a 116519, a white gold Daytona on a leather strap, hammered at 22,200. JB, you caught me at the last gasp in the dying embers. A member of the channel, one of the most staunch supporters of me and my work here. $9.99. Finishing it with the fist bump. We have been live for about 3 hours and a half, and it's past midnight here. It is my time to say goodbye. And I'll be back with you, I hope, on Sunday. I'm most certainly gone tomorrow and Saturday, but I will keep posting some shorter content, so stay tuned for that. There's some interesting stuff to come for public consumption, more videos to drop for the archive, to which only members have access. And I did tell you that by the end of this month, a lot of the videos that are publicly available in the form of live streams, in the form of these Wilf Hunters, watches I like to find, where I go into the scavenger hunt for mostly vintage and new vintage pieces, but sometimes even hype watches to look for the best deals for you. They're usually focused around a particular style, a certain kind or model of a watch, or even a complication or a historical era. So the way I present those watches is always woven through with historical information and horological detail. So a lot of substance there, a lot of meat on the bone. Feel free to explore the ones that are still available. If you're interested in more content like that, a membership will be basically the only way to access it in the longer run. We are celebrating 2 years of Young Brando, 2 years of Watches and Style at the end of the month. I'll set up the live stream for that quite soon. I thank again the Colonel for being here. Thank you everyone for being part of the chats, all the members, all the lovely people who have sent in super chats like Pavel, Jamie Opulence, Seb Nelly, who sent in a member chat. If you're a member, you get one of these for free every month. Curly, Loose Tooth twice, saving me also from further embarrassment, and JB to round it up for the night. I really appreciate all of you. I'll be back with you soon enough with another live stream. I think it might take until Sunday. I'm certainly not going to be here tomorrow night. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. It's the end of the day for me, so I'll put this one aside so it can take a little bit of a rest. Take care.